Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Striketh, and today we're taking a look at the Plague Quarter in Hearthstone. Last week, the Arachnid Quarter came out, and I did an analysis of the cards then. Today, I'm going to do the same thing, and we're going to take a look at all of the new cards that came out along with the Plague Quarter. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. Starting out with the Unstable Ghoul. The Unstable Ghoul is a 2-drop taunt that's a 1/3 with a death rattle that deals 1 damage to all minions. This card is one of my favorite cards that has come out so far in all of Naxx, and probably my favorite as far as the Plague Quarter goes. Why do I like this card? Well, first of all, this card isn't necessarily a game changer. It's only a 1/3, and it's not going to have a massive game-winning effect on the game usually. However, the death rattle, deal 1 damage to all minions, synergizes really well with the warrior, and I've been wanting to play more control warrior. This allows me to do so. The 1 damage to all minions is basically a free whirlwind, and it can gain you armor, gain you card draw via the Armor Smith or the Acolyte of Pain. It can also help with minion removal for things like going up against Zulocks. This is definitely a problem that a control warrior can struggle to deal with, since a lot of the stuff that a control warrior has is usually on the slower side in comparison to Zulock and aggro decks. So this is a really good card. It doesn't cost a lot of mana for its stats, and the death rattle is really quite powerful. Now, if you're running something like a Zulock yourself, then you probably don't want to have this card in your deck because it would be not beneficial to you whatsoever. Basically, you would be killing your own minions as a result, since you have many 1 and 2 HP minions. But this is definitely something I think that is more oriented towards a control warrior, and if you're looking for another card to insert into your deck, then I would recommend checking this out. So we'll move on to the Stoneskin Gargoyle. This is a 3-drop that's a 1/4, and at the start of your turn, it restores all of its HP back to maximum. This card is probably my least favorite so far. I don't feel that it's very useful for anyone really, and you have to take into account that it's only a 1/4, so it won't really have a large impact on the game. The only real hero that I could see this being used in is Priest, but Priest already has a lot of 3-drops as it is that are better than this. So there's not really a lot of room to put this into a Priest deck, although you could try it out. Throw it into a deck with basically buffs for HP and attack, double its health up to 8, and then match its attack power to its health, and you have an 8/8 for 3, but the problem is that you've already combined 2 cards into it, and if it's silenced, then you've just lost a lot of value. It's also really slow. So I'm just not really a fan of this card. I like the idea behind it, but I just don't think it's going to see a lot of use or really have any significant impact on the metagame. And moving on, Loetheb. Loetheb is probably one of the most hyped cards I've seen in a long time. Basically, everyone has been talking about Loetheb over the past week, saying that this card is going to kill Miracle Rogues, that mages are going to get slaughtered by it, and I really don't see that. First of all, it's a legendary. Yes, it's a 5-cost 5/5, and its battle cry makes enemy spells cost 5 more next turn, but it is just that. It's a battle cry. It's not something permanent, and once you've played the card, that's it. Unless you're a rogue and you can shadow step it to play it again, it's still not an amazing card. Yes, it can definitely have an impact on the game. If you use it at the right time, say right before a rogue's turn 8, making their shadow step Leroy combination unusable, then that could definitely win you the game potentially, and even, you know, cause them to be unable to get lethal as a result. But the card it's great, it's good, but it's just not a class killer. Miracle Rogues are still going to be in the ladder. You're still going to see freeze mages and so on and so forth. They're not going away. And this is our last neutral of the week, the Sludge Belcher. This is a 5-cost 3/5 with taunt. Its death rattle summons a 1/2 slime with taunt. I do like this card. I think it's a good card. It's not great, but it's definitely going to see use and has seen use so far. I've seen people running it in the ladder. It's a good replacement for the Ascension Shieldmaster or Yeti, but of course it does cost 1 mana more, and it only has 3 attack as opposed to the Yeti's 4 attack. But what I really like about this card is that it can really slow down your opponent. Sure, when it dies, it summons a 1/2 slime with taunt, which is not really going to do a whole lot, but it can actually do a lot more than you think. Basically, unless this guy is silenced, when he dies, he prevents another minion from getting through and doing damage to you. So, let's say someone has the combo. You're up against a druid and they've got the combo, they go ahead and use it, and they get through the Sludge Belcher, but now the Sludge Belcher summons a slime with taunt. Well, even though they have a buffed up tree, it still has to go through the 1/2, so that's basically 2 taunts they have to get through, and it's saving a lot of your life points from being consumed by these opposing enemies that are trying to get to you. I really like it in that regard, and I definitely see a lot of people making room for it in their decks in the coming days and weeks. So overall, a good card, definitely worth using, and if you can find room for this card in your deck, I highly recommend giving it a whirl and seeing how it works for you. Now we go into the class cards. This is it for our neutrals for this week. We'll have more next week. So we're going to start out with the Mage card, Duplicate. This card is a secret, which it seems like they're trying to bring back with Naxxramas. The way this card works is basically as it says. When a friendly minion dies, put 2 copies of it in your hand. So basically, let's say I have a Ragnaros on the board. Ragnaros dies, I now get 2 Ragnaros in my hand. You immediately think, whoa, that's awesome! But you could also get useless minions in your hand. What if you have a Mana Worm on the board that killed a Mana Worm and now you have got 2 Mana Worms in your hand? Well, big whoopity-doo, that's usually not going to win you the game. So it's an okay secret, but it's very open to exploitation by your opponent. Once they are onto what you're doing, then they can very easily play around the card, and it's going to make your life more difficult, especially if they're able to mill you using this. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. Again, the Mage has a lot of secrets already, and I can see this card being viable, especially if you're trying to do more of a fun deck where you get a bunch of cards back after they die. But Leper Gnome, for example. But other than like just having fun with it, I don't think it's going to have a large impact on the metagame. It is just another secret, and it's not even an amazing one at that. So an okay card, probably worth using, not necessarily going to have any real impact on the metagame. And lastly, our Hunter card, the Web Spinner. This card has been debated quite a bit. It's a 1-drop, 1/1, Death Rattle, add a random beast card to your hand. The key to this card that a lot of people may not realize right off the bat is that the beast card that it draws into your hand comes from any beast out of all the beasts in the game. So even if you don't have a King Crush in your deck, you could potentially draw a King Crush. And this goes for any other creature. You could also potentially draw an Angry Chicken. And yes, it has happened to people. So it's an interesting card, but I feel that for this metagame, it's a little bit too slow. Because first of all, you have to actually play the Web Spinner in the first place, right? Then you have to kill the Web Spinner by running it into something, or by then running something into it. Then you have to also assume that it doesn't get silenced at the same time too. So assuming it makes it past all of that and it finally dies, then it draws you a random card. The card that you actually draw could be really great, or it could be absolute crap. You don't know what you're going to get. So it's Hearthstone relying on those RNG elements that the game already heavily relies on once again. So I think it's definitely a fun card. It's going to see usage, and people are going to try it out in Hunter decks, but will it affect the metagame? And I don't think so. I think it's definitely going to be a card that you should try out if you like playing Hunter, because it could have some crazy results. If you draw some really interesting beasts, you could draw the win basically with the Web Spinner. What if you got 2 King Crushes in your hand or something? That would be insane. Imagine dropping those one turn after another on the board and just demolishing your opponent. You think of things like that and you're like, whoa, that's so awesome. But in the grand scheme of things, what if you draw 2 Angry Chickens? You lose the game because the cards you have in your hand are completely useless. So all in all, it's an okay card. Definitely has some fun elements to it, but no real effect on the metagame. Anyway, those are all the cards that have come out this week in the Plague Quarter. If you missed my video from last week where I covered the Arachnid Quarter, I've added an annotation above and a link in the description below this video so you can check it out. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Striketh, checking out.